disagree. I can't bear let's agree to disagree, because if we're disagreeing on something, we must have opinions which we support and value. So let's continue the discussion until we've either persuaded one another, or we've just walked away angry, perhaps after fisticuffs. But let's not agree to disagree.
Perhaps that's why people use that expression, so that it doesn't have to come to that.
Yeah.
This endless argument in which you try but fail repeatedly to win someone over to your view, or a fight.
Yeah.
You know,
Do you
perhaps
want the
it's-
slap, Dan? Because you're going to get one, mate.
Well, I just don't think that we're going to see eye to eye on this particular expression, so maybe we
Agree to
should just
disagree?
agree to
It
disagree.
points out that you need to use the well-known phrase, shut up, he explained.
What?
Is that a phrase?
Not really, it's just one I like to use when I realise that someone isn't getting my point of view, and I need to explain that they have to shut up, you know, it's perfectly reasonable.
Wow.
Walk away from the argument by understanding that I'm right.
What would a gentleman do if you're, do you feel that agree to disagree is what a gentleman should do?
I think sometimes, I've said that in the past, with, as Dan says, when it's either punch-in or realising you can't go any further, and you have to agree that your opinions are irreconcilable.
Right.
And that further discussion isn't going to change that.
I prefer that. Should we just agree that our opinions are irreconcilable?
Yeah.
It's a nice way of saying it. My least favourite thing in the whole wide world is where you're retelling a conversation and you say, well, she turned round to me and said, and then I turned round to her and said, and
Yes.
you just get this impression of two people wildly spinning on the spot.
Yes,
Yeah,
no longer looking at one another,
Just ridiculous.
shouting at other people in
Yeah.
the train carriage. Yeah, another one of the ones that's on the list is, it's a nightmare. Again, I'm guilty of that. Oh, it was a nightmare. I had a nightmare earlier on the tube. It was a nightmare.
Well, these boffins,
Which
these
I think
boffins,
seems a
what
bit
do they
harsh.
know?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I believe it's a friend of the show, Robin Ince, who makes the point that it's rarely a nightmare. You know, when people say that, you know, oh, dearie me, I was going to the shop to buy things that I want with money that I've earned. It was a nightmare. Well, it wasn't a nightmare, was it? It
But
was
people
just
always, the other one is that, oh, there's nothing worse than a cold coffee, is there?
exactly, yeah. There's a number of things worse.
Yeah.
I can't bear, I'm just gonna go and spend a penny. Who says that? Have you never heard that phrase?
I've heard the phrase, but who says it?
You know, it tends to be people of the older generation.
Right.
Because they don't want, I don't know what it is that they need to tell you that that's what they're up to, but in as polite a way as possible.
My
Why
par-
not just say, excuse me? Why tell me at all?
My
In a
parents
cutesy
love that
way.
phrase so much, having never ever said the words loo or toilet in their
Yeah.
life, that they say things like, "Oh, I'm dying for a penny," or
Yeah.
anywhere. I'm desperate to spend a pen. You know, they abbreviate
Right,
it,
they
they muck
abbreviate
about
it,
with it,
yeah,
they
yeah,
change
yeah,
it into an adjective, all those kind of things. You know,
Oh.
anything Pennywise? Is there anywhere we can?
yeah. I was
Yeah.
completely penned last night.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure. I'm really penned off with you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, that one, and this final one on the list, which people apparently loathe, is, it's not rocket science.
You see, I don't mind that one either, and I've
That
used it a
annoys
lot.
That does annoy me. One that I'd like to include on the list, see you anon. See you anon. Oh, what does that mean? See you anon. Let's have a musical choice from you, Ruth.
Steve, I've got one straight out the pigeonhole. You gave us a couple of weeks ago. This is a band called Gloria Cycles. This is released on. It was released on December 22nd. Okay, just before Christmas. They're going to do more of their tracks, and this is their single "No Zeros."
This was one of your favourite tunes of the year?
No, it was my pigeonhole track, which got postponed, but I do like it.
That apparently is one of Ruth's favourite tunes of the year.
Well, I didn't get the brief. I didn't
What
get
do you mean
the
you
bring
didn't
it-
get the brief?
I didn't get the brief. I got the time wrong. I didn't know it was favourite tune of the year. I didn't get the brief. I let you down, Steve. I've let you down. But it's a good track.
Is it
It's quite good.
too much grouse hunting? Is it in badger baiting back at the manor? You're just off your head, are you, with pheasant?
I did
Bloated with pheasant?
I did
Rufus
see-
Gerard Wright cannot be with us today because he's died of gout. The rich glutton's disease.
The first time I ever met you, when I came in to do the first show, you had to leave early from the pub to go and take your pheasant stock off the board.
That's right, that's right.
That's true.
That was
I
extraordinary.
did see a kindred spirit today. I saw a man walking through Baker Street Station, absolutely no joke, and there was no irony involved, wearing a tweed suit and a deerstalker.
Really?
And there was no nod to Sherlock Holmes going on at all. He was simply a gent.
Oh, please, you're not getting off at Baker Street unless you're a Sherlock Holmes lookalike, surely.
The only people get off at Baker Street.
No, but anyone dressed like that, I mean, surely that's the logical decision.
I think he was changing trains. I don't think he was getting off. I mean, obviously wearing tweed in town was a little bit, I looked down my sleeve at that a little bit.
Well, that's one of the things, of course, that the Sherlock Holmes movies always did wrong, was that they would have Sherlock Holmes wandering around town in a deerstalker.
Deerstalker. No, he'd never do that.
Do that.
No,
That's
exactly.
surely for country walks and
Yeah.
country investigations only.
Exactly.
I would
Country
country investigations. It would be a top hat and cane, surely, in the city.
Yeah,
Please.
true.
We've all got a fairly strong mental image of Rufus's Christmas. Sammy, what's it like up there?
What, in my Christmas?
Yeah.
Well, my dad has this thing called the Anti-Santa.
Right.
He's called Anti by Abiemore. I was brought up with the idea of the Anti-Santa, and he basically wheezes on children's presents. So I've lived with this all my life, and I'm pretty used to it by now, but when other people get introduced to it, it seems a bit strange to them.
Go on.
Well, he rides Snodgrass and not reindeers, of course. I get up on Christmas morning, has Santa been, or has Anti by Abiemore been, and weed all over my presents.
Is he? This is something that he introduced from the beginning. It's not like he gave you the Santa idea and then somewhere down the line when you were a teenager he brought this into
It
your life.
certainly wasn't teen. I'd say from being about 6.
Right.
I mean, Santa was still very much real when Anti by Abiemore was introduced.
Anti-ban? What are you saying there?
Anti by Abiemore.
Anti-Abiemore.
He's the Anti-Santa.
Yes. Your father, we've established he's an eccentric man. I don't know if we need to clarify that. But, what... so many questions, as always.
He also-
How have you ended up able to talk? Have you been raised as an experiment?
I think so sometimes, because he also had an imaginary daughter. Did I tell you about this?
What?
This is totally true. He had an imaginary daughter called Sian, who he loved more than me. Like, as a joke, it wasn't a
Yeah.
real thing.
Yeah.
But, like, when I can remember being about 3, and he was hugging Sian on the settee, and
He was hugging Sian on the settee.
and saying
Is that
how,
a euphemism? What does that mean?
And saying how lovely she was, and it was to enrage me enough to beat up this imaginary child and throw it out the window, just for his pleasure.
Okay, this is genuinely. I think we need to have an intervention. I think we need to get you taken away from your parents. I'm sorry, but this in a year
fine
where
with
there's
it
been a
now.
number of sort of terrible parenting stories that have ended in tragedy. I'm afraid we're going to need to, because it's
not
only a matter of
terrible
time before he's stashing you in underneath the sofa and claiming you've gone missing, babe. I mean, I'm sorry. It's time to just. I mean, you're still living at home.
I am. I think it is one of those things that the kind of there's a name for it where you start loving your captor. What's that?
Right.
Yeah.
Stockholm Syndrome.
Stockholm syndrome that I just can't get away now.
You can't get away.
But I mean, fair enough, some of it sounds a bit strange, but it was quite entertaining. He once told me that he was going to be on Top of the Pops the following week, and obviously I didn't believe what he was saying, and he went to the trouble of spending a whole day out of his schedule making a video. So he recorded Top of the Pops, inserted his video into it, and then played it, and it was him singing a version of Spike Milligan's Inchworm Tiddle-I-Po.
Wow. And he just at the right moment he pressed play on the tape
Yeah.
when your back was turned.
Yeah.
And were you fooled?
Seamlessly. I remember being in tears, and I don't know why. I think because he'd won and he was right.
Yes, because he was on Top of the Pops.
Yeah.
And only years later did he
He'd set up his
announce.
drum kit in the garden, got all coming back to us. He had really gone to some extent to do this wind.
When he came up with the weeing Santa idea, was it because he'd come home from the pub, blasted, he was just drunk, urinating on your gifts, you came and go, Dad, what you doing and you're ruining Christmas? He went, no, I'm not your father, I'm the anti-Santa, alright?
Do you know what I've always
And
been...
this is what we do.
I've always been quite lucky because Anti-Barbimore's never chosen me. I've never had weed on presents.
That's good.
But I know there are some children who do suffer.
And what's your imaginary sister called?
She's not my sister. She's just loved more than me.
Oh,
That's
I see.
Sean. I'm still actually get quite angry about her. And sometimes if I've got, 90 out of 100 on some sort of test, my dad will go, Sean would have got 100. Still there.
Wow, you are. I would love to spend Christmas with you. Hey, we saw a picture of your dad once, and he's got a pretty wild beard, am I right?
No.
No?
He's got very long hair and a moustache.
That's
Bit
what
of a
confused
stubbly
me.
beard,
That's
yeah.
what confused me. Well, anyway, talking of long hair and the like, you remember when Scroobius Pip came in?
Ah, Scroob.
Pip, of course, well known with for his recordings with Dan Lassac. Anyway, Pip came in, he busted some rhymes for us, and we also had a chat. And he has a very distinctive ZZ Top-style beard, which particularly transfixed me. For those of you that have not seen Scroob before, he's got quite a distinctive beard. I'm sorry that that must be something that people. But in order to try and create a visual picture,
the attention to my beard. I spend a lot of time on it.
but it puts me in mind of perhaps a man who would work work in a country pub.
Yeah.
I would come in, I would have my own tankard behind the
Yeah,
bar,
yeah,
and I
no,
would call you Chief. Pint of ale, please, Chief.
Exactly, that is the look that I've set out to achieve. So,
You've done it brilliantly.
it's nice that it's been picked up upon and fully appreciated.
It puts me in mind, actually, of one of your the tunes we've played in the past and we've enjoyed enormously. Where you actually one of your things is you say, "Thou shalt not think that any male over the age of 30 that plays with a child that is not their own is a paedophile. Some
Yeah.
people are just nice. Surely safer to assume that they are a paedophile and stay away."
yeah. Well, again, it's opinions, it's views.
Yeah, yeah.
Again, it's a tough subject for me to talk about. Again, with my appearance, I have a slightly
You have-
paedophilic look.
You have got a
So
slight
it's a
pedo look.
tough one to kind of broach, but
Yeah.
it's something I felt I wanted to speak up against.
But surely that's exactly what a paedophile would say. Well, don't set fire to my house because I'm just a nice guy.
yeah, it's a tough one.
It says one of yours which I enjoyed. "Thou shalt not judge Lethal Weapon" by Danny Glover.
Yeah.
Are you slagging off Glover?
No, that line doesn't really make any sense.
No,
It's simply
because-
rhymed. I like to think of it.
It
as
makes
that-
you sound like you're a racist paedophile.
Yeah, no, you see,
Which is the worst kind, if you don't mind me
I
saying.
think it's the opposite. It's saying that Danny Glover is far above the actual quality of Lethal Weapon in
I see.
reality. So Lethal Weapon's a great film, but don't judge it by Danny Glover's performance because that makes it an Oscar-winning kind of film.
Sure.
But
Now you're
really, it's simply
Now
action.
you're
slash
patronising
comedy.
Glover. You're patronising Glover. Glover
I
is
love
not
Glover.
giving an Oscar-winning
I love
performance.
Glover. He's done so much for a facial hair in the public eye and in celebritydom. And it's, you know, he's a trailblazer in that respect.
Listen, Scroob Pip, I would love to get you to lay something down for us. How do we do? Do we just term it spoken word? Is it
Yeah,
laying down rhymes?
Spoken
Is it-
word. I'm not. Again, I'm a white person who lives in a small town in Essex. So I can't really put any laying down rhymes or ghetto style
Sure.
vernacular onto it. So speaking is generally how I like to describe it. Of all the gin joints in all the world, of all the female forms I've held, the one that haunts my night and day has found tonight to me her way. Of all the eyes mine could have met, of all the things I still regret, the one mistake I can't admit tonight is these four walls betwixt. And I know what happens on drunk nights like this. Nostalgia evolves into a kiss. And from the drunk words that pass her lips, it's clear she no longer wants relationships. She wants sex. So I guess that's all this is. I guess that love stuff's just for teenage kids. But I'll stay focused even though my mind's a blur. I'll just walk straight up and... hang on a minute, that ain't even her. That's a lad with slim hips. The way the light was casting a shadow, it looked like he had... But it doesn't matter. I didn't want our paths to cross. I didn't want her to know I'd found the love we once thought was lost. It was in an old Valentine's Day card from when we first got together. Just a simple line, nothing mushy or clever. You have succeeded in convincing me that you are in fact a nice guy. But it's cool. I'll stay focused. I saw some lovely girls earlier. They can't have gone far. Oh, why do we always end up in gay bars?
The delightful Scroobius Pip on the Steve Show, listening back to some of the highlights of the year. Let's have Dan's musical choice. Have you chosen something which was one of your favourites?
I have indeed, yes. Dan fans everywhere will be livid, no doubt, at the revelation that I've chosen Elbow. So no points for originality, and I know that there was a 17-minute African jazz improvised epic called The Incantation of a Moon Woman that I could have chosen, and it's rather good. But no, I went for Elbow just because we were in the studio way back when, and this was before the Mercury Music Prize and all that. And I remember the Bones of You was playing, and Elbow were always a band that I thought, I might like them, but I've never really got into them. And I was blown away by that track, and went out and got the album, the previous album, and this one's Grounds for Divorce.
Dan's musical choice on this retrospective of the tunes of the year. Dan, remind us again what it was.
That was, of course, Elbow, Grounds for Divorce, and it was great to see that they had a bit of a breakthrough year. Although I've had that terrible thing where you get really snobby, don't you? Because obviously I'm a bit of a latecomer to Elbow, and now they're everywhere. They're on TV trailers and everything. And I've got no claim to them because
can't even
I
say
wasn't-
you were there first.
I wasn't there first, no, not at all. I was there just before the Mercury Music Prize stuff, so I've got no claim at all. I'm pathetic.
How's this for a beautiful segue? Grounds for Divorce. Remember when the brilliant comedian, possibly I think the funniest man in America, Louis C.K. came in? And if you've not checked out Louis's work,